welcome to Front Porch Radio. I'm Julie Wilder, and my guest today,
Max.
really more of a co-host. I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, I told you that was going to happen, but this is what we're going to have to deal with.
Maybe it's just my headphones.
Turn your headphones on?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
This is my mom.
So girl maxing is
I am girl
I made
Max.
her.
Okay, that's weird. I'm Girl Max from 5 minutes ago, where I have my show Girl Maxing, and this is my mother.
She's my, was it Nepo baby? Nepo baby?
I'm a Nepo baby.
We're just joking. We're so poor.
We are extremely poor. I am a Nepo baby for local Orlando vegans, and that's it.
We're not even vegan. It doesn't even count.
Well,
I know what you're saying. She grew up at Dandelion, you guys. So she's like sort of locally famous amongst like 40 and 50-year-old women.
people did come up to me and they're like, this happened like 2 days ago,
Yeah.
I think. Someone was like, I remember you when you were in her stomach. And I was like, you and everyone else, girl.
Oh man, oh gosh, yeah. Where were we? We were at the protest, weren't we, when that happened?
Yes, we were at an ICE protest because this is the world we live in.
This is the world we live in, and you know, on Saturday, Max was having like just a sweet, innocent day. She was at Stardust, you know,
Painting. For my English class.
The aesthetic was on point. I just know, because
I looked fabulous.
Absolutely. And I was home going through my all of my I had all these memory boxes like that were in the storage thing out back, but like the lids were coming off and I was worried that they were, you know, getting moisture or whatever.
Right,
so
right.
I was moving them inside because I made room inside, and I was going through all of these crazy memories.
Mhm.
But Max had, unbeknownst to me, seen the horrific news about Alexander Pretti being executed in the street, an extrajudicial execution. I mean, horrifying. So I didn't know it, but you were like, I got to get home.
I tried to contain myself and I was like, okay, put the phone down and keep painting. And it did not work. And I was like, I'm going home now.
Yeah. And so then she came home, and apparently you cried for 30 minutes in the car.
I usually do that.
Well, that's depressing. And also, thank you for having a heart and humanity. And that's an appropriate response to what you saw. And then I was just like so deep. I mean, I was like finding notes, artifacts from my high school years when we passed notes. We can't talk about them. Okay. Like, that is top secret. But it was, so you just kind of dove into that and I distracted you, I guess.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can picture me listening to Reputation by Taylor Swift crying in the driveway of my house.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then, of course, you know, we had nothing. Eventually, we had to get around to just processing what has happened. And I finally sat down on Sunday because a lot of you know I own Spiral Circle Bookstore. And, you know, lately I've been, you know, we try to make it a place internally with our culture where people can come and they don't have to worry about what's going on in the outside world, because it's a very diverse staff and some of them are scared to death. And, you know, so I try not to bring in what's going on, but also some of them are just kind of tuned out for reasons of mental health or whatever. And so they don't maybe know what's going on. Maybe some of you also don't know what's going on because nobody's giving you context. I know that's one of the things that you've kind of like been kind of lamenting, is that you have your teachers are teaching you about history and all these different things, but they're not really allowed to.
It's very difficult, besides the fact that what's going on in the world is extremely stressful, and having to be a normal person every day and continually live through it and act for your own sanity, ignore it for the time being, is one thing. And then another thing is a lot of kids are not politically active. You know, a lot of kids
Or aware.
Or do not know the severity of any issues going on at the current right now. And I know a lot of teachers who they can't speak up about it because of the education system and the way it's built. They're not allowed to talk about what's happening. But, you sit there and I learn about history and global politics and all of these things all day long, and teachers just have to sit there and hope that kids make the connections on their own because they can't make the connections for them.
Right.
Which
a lot of it goes right over people's heads.
A lot of it goes right over people's heads. And also today in class, I had 2 very casual conversations. Hey, isn't it crazy that the Minnesota National Guard is deployed in Minneapolis and this could start a civil war? Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my God, this is terrible. Okay, so what are the notes on? And it's just like
yeah, it's a feeling of being gaslit, and that was something I was dealing with our team as well, is just some of the people being like, how are people acting like it's normal? And then of course you have right now, y'all, I'm not gonna speak for Black folk, but I'm reading and talking to some Black folk, and they are just like, yeah. Because they've been dealing with this, and we've been talking on this program, and in my essays online, and whoever will freaking listen to me, I've been talking about Black Lives Matter for a very long time. When Trayvon Martin, he was killed right here in Sanford, Florida, and then the guy who murdered him. Not only does he get off, but he goes around signing Skittles packets, which is what this little kid was carrying when he was shot and killed. Horrific. So that started the flashpoint of Black Lives Matter, and of course escalated and became like this whole thing. And so when you've had a community of Black people and Black activists for years, over a decade, begging everybody else to realize those were executions in the streets by police.
Yeah.
Like those were what those were. And, for some reason I thought of this, right before the show, I thought about like the parable of like my little sister, who's 5 years younger than me, and she was mommy's girl. Okay. And I was definitely not mommy's girl. I was a good kid, but my mom, I don't know, possibly a mental illness, something going on there. And I was treated horribly. I mean, that's just I'm not asking for any kind of whatever. Like it's just the facts, right? And just about a year ago, my younger sister shared that she was treated pretty well at the house, and she said that she was in therapy for what she saw happen to me, which is just such a funny thing, and horizontal violence, witnessing violence is no good, whatever. But I just remember her saying that the bubble burst for her because my mom was the boss, and she just assumed I was a bad kid because I was getting in trouble all the time.
Right.
And so she just assumed I was a bad kid and I deserved, the beatings and the verbal abuse and all the other things, because it was the environment she was growing up in, right?
Yeah.
And it took her, by the time she was in high school herself, she must have been in she must have been sixth grade, probably middle school. And because my mom had this moment where she was just, she had a lot going on. Lady was stressed out, respectfully, and we were sitting and eating breakfast, it must have been, or something like that. And my mom just slapped me across the face. She was just taking out her, I literally hadn't done anything. And she just reached across, slapped me across the face. And then the bowl of cereal I was eating, went flying and all over the place. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, look what you did, clean up the mess that you made, Right. And so Jill had this moment where she was like, oh, Julie didn't do anything wrong, Yeah. And she started to reframe the entire thing. And this is a girl that lived in the house with me. Okay. So she, you would think that there was a lack of evidence the entire time, Yeah. But she just thought, okay, authority figure,
right,
saying this person's wrong. I it wasn't happening to her. So she just was like, I'm good and this person's bad, And it just makes me think about just the blinders that people have had when they are taught to trust authority, and assume that the authority is correct and not corrupt. And we are definitely getting to see, because you'll remember that after the last election, Black women were like, we're done.
Yeah.
We have done everything we can, and we've been doing it for centuries, and your turn. You guys are going to have to handle it, you know? Right. And obviously, BIPOC folk, by and large, are not able to be in the streets, especially with what's going on right now. Minneapolis is basically being occupied by bounty hunters and mercenaries under the, umbrella of ICE and Border Patrol. And so because, and I'm not saying like it's a monolith or anything like that, but, for the most part, it's going to have to, it's white people having to fight right now.
Yeah.
And stand up and speak up, because half the population cannot, because they're being targeted, and the other ones are like,
I mean, I'm glad that we're finally doing something for once.
Absolutely. Do not get me wrong. But I think we do need to frame it in those,
right,
in that framing, right? And I'm wearing my Prince shirt today.
Her shirt reads, "Ever since Prince died, stuff's been weird."
It doesn't say stuff, you guys. It says a bad word, but we can't say it on air. And he Prince and the Revolutionaries, man. And I just, it goes back again to Black Lives Matter. George Floyd, the killing of George Floyd happened there. There was incredible grassroots activism on the ground, and I don't even need to know the story to know that somehow Prince was involved in funding activists on the ground, in his community, and also, that obviously the good people of Minnesota, this is not their first, rodeo, and they are an extremely progressive state. And, the governor there, obviously Tim Walz, which is the former VP candidate with Trump, who loves to talk about retribution, right? And so we have had this incredibly horrific, horrifying, scary, I think the police department, there was like 600 people and there's like 4 times that many ICE, bounty hunters and mercenaries on the ground, just causing havoc and literally just killing people.
Yeah.
And the lies are so bad that even the NRA is like, yo, even Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, that's not what happened,
Yeah.
And so, so how are we, Max is like, do I have to go to school? I was like, no. Sorry.
Okay. I do have to go to school. And I think that maybe if like a war broke out, less so.
Right.
For sure.
I was like, drop out now and get your GED.
Which is not going to happen.
This kid is too studious for me.
I'm sorry. But if you don't know what's going on right now,
right,
if you've been living under a rock, ICE has the what is that, international immigration control,
it doesn't even matter,
something. ICE has been extremely prominent in the city of Minneapolis, which right. And when was it? January, or earlier in January, like a week or 2 ago, a woman named Renee Good was killed unlawfully. She was murdered. She was murdered in the streets of Minneapolis because she was in her car, parked in the middle of the road, protecting her neighbors, who I assume were immigrants. ICE was trying to get through the road, and she was about to move out of the way before an ICE agent shot her in the head.
I'm gonna just interrupt you
Okay.
there. That I just want to remind everybody that the headlines are around Renee Good and Pretti is his last name. I forget his first name right now. Alexander Pretti. But ICE has also been killing other people that are people of color that are not getting as much notice. And the first person they killed was Keith Porter on New Year's Eve, in terms of basically this year. So Keith Porter Jr., he was killed in LA. I don't think that one was captured on video. And I do think one of the things about what is happening in Minneapolis is that the reason why we were able to see what happened to Good and to Pretti was because there was just, one of the things that Orwell missed in 1984. If you haven't read that book, you should read that book. Was that there would be two-way surveillance, and there was active, ongoing, decentralized but coordinated, observers that were on the ground, and that is why we saw that. And so one of the things I always say, Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers. Right. And she was a helper.
Renee Good.
Yes, Renee Good was a helper, but also all around her, one of the things that we talked about after watching that horrific video was I said, look at all of the people who did not run. Everybody stayed. They kept filming in extreme. I mean, this guy just
killed her.
And those people that were around there, they didn't flee. They stayed. They were calling him names,
They were saying shame.
Yeah, the guy had to the guy literally had to run out of town and be protected. I've never seen such a great cover up. Know.
Well, so after that,
sorry. Okay, I just had to say that.
After that, people were rightfully outraged.
Yes.
Everyone in the entire world is outraged. And Minneapolis on January 23rd scheduled a general strike, and no one went to work. No one went to school.
50,000 people in I think it was negative 26 degree.
Negative 28 degree weather.
Well, that was what it felt like. It was still negative, but, extremely cold weather.
Extremely near the negative 30s weather. 50,000 people in Minneapolis went out in the streets and protested, and which is amazing.
Yeah.
That is dedication. And
shops, schools, everything shut down.
Everything's closed.
Yeah. There are people, the messages coming out of there are that people are basically, people were just being disappeared from gas stations. They were just picking up anybody,
Right.
Yes. And so these people are literally having to be in hiding. And they are being brought food and all of these other things.
So they've organized, from what I've heard from people living in Minneapolis and from reporters on the grounds in Minneapolis, they have basically figured out a system. And they build walls out of dumpsters, and everyone's protesting. Everyone has whistles, and people are standing watch at every block looking for suspicious vehicles, reporting it to
just haunting videos where somebody's walking down the street and you'll hear, they're here, get inside, blowing whistles, setting off car alarms, honking.
And since almost all of the immigrants that live in that city are not able to go outside, it would be extremely dangerous. They've started bringing them food. Over 14,000 boxes of, last time I checked, it was 14,000 boxes of groceries delivered to people in hiding. It's incredible how quickly they have built a system to protect their neighbors.
Right. It has been incredible. And I for one, I think that for me, I've been paying attention to these things for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I credit, honestly, this radio show, me being able to have curious conversations with my neighbors and strangers sometimes about the things that are going on. I was like, oh man, this is like crazy. This is crazy levels of racism still happening. Like,
Yeah.
and that was me, like, 15 years ago,
Right.
as just a young, like, what is happening kind of person. And now I'm not, I mean, like, outrage to me is an important, it's an important emotion in terms of, like, yeah, you should, we should be upset. And I feel like it also, first of all, pulls focus and is distracting to getting the work done. And so I'm always like, all right, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to prepare? What is the next step?
Right.
And part of that is just having conversations with each other, because there are narratives. They're saying false narratives out there about what happened, and people like my mom and dad
they believe it.
They just believe it.
Because when the National Board of whatever of Immigration and International Relations are calling these innocent American citizens who've gotten publicly executed, they're calling them domestic terrorists.
Right.
And they're saying that they were trying to harm, and it was in self-defense. Renee Good was trying to run him over.
I would like to point you to a book entitled When They Call You a Terrorist by one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, Patrisse Cullors. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. But, good book to check out and read right now. Because, this isn't anything new to a lot of Black and Indigenous people, and I'll put a lot of Hispanic people under the Indigenous umbrella, because they literally are indigenous to the Americas. But it's not new, and it is different because of what is happening. No, the war crimes of him going into Venezuela and kidnapping, which, that was like 2 weeks ago, you guys, where he went in and kidnapped the Venezuelan president, who nobody's a fan of course, but it was a war crime,
Right.
and killing all those fishermen off the coast, also
Right.
a war crime.
Yes.
And so, and then, threatening to invade Greenland and freaking everyone out. And now our allies are not sharing intelligence with us, which is not good. That is not good if our allies are not sharing intelligence with us. But there are a few things that I do want people to remember, because, people, like, they're trying to scare Americans. They're also trying to incite Americans into violence so that they can do whatever nefarious plan they have to do to probably disrupt the elections, right? But there's a couple of things that I wrote a letter to my team on Sunday, because I was just like, I would feel negligent if I didn't clue my friends and neighbors in who have just been like, you know what, I can't deal with Trump. I'm going to tune out the next 4 years and wait for the next election, and then I'll pop back up. Because people think what's happening right now is politics as normal. I saw one girl online being like, okay, my millennial and Gen X, people, is this normal? Like, is it always been this shocking? And I was like, no, this is the worst it's ever been. Like, this is not normal.
In a while.
This is not politics as usual. This is the undoing of our democracy in a lot of ways. But I do want to tell people that seeing things as they are and being aware of what is going on does not mean you must give up your bliss and joy. So practicing mental resilience and having a strength-based approach to adversity, it's empowering, it's hopeful, and it's absolutely necessary. It is a signature mindset that precipitates successful outcomes. Because if you're just always wallowing in grief and despair and all of those different things, which I'm not saying you don't have those moments, but it's a place that you visit and then you move through it. And that's why, there's a whole Black joy movement, because, that is part of what white supremacy and patriarchal white supremacy and Christian nationalism, white supremacy, male supremacy, wants is everyone to be scared and upset and distraught. And so it is imperative that we continue to seek each other out for joyful community activities, right? And then also the second thing is that the situation, it's not hopeless. We can affect outcomes. You're watching them do it right now in Minneapolis, okay?
Right.
They are doing it. And I think this morning at some point, Trump was like, oh, yeah, I just had a great talk with Governor Walz. And, it sounds like we want the same things. It sounds like things are maybe going to de-escalate. And not because anybody, but because it's not working, because they are being out. They're being pushed out. Like, that's literally what happens.
Aren't scared.
Yeah. Like,
no one's fleeing.
More people are coming out. More people are coming out. More people are videoing. More people are, they're, it is just so, but that being said, preparation is power, and being proactive increases our chance of victorious outcomes exponentially. So look for the helpers and prepare now. That is what Minneapolis is telling everyone. They're saying, get ready, because it is an active promise of this administration to try to occupy other cities.
Right.
I think that they've been talking about Philadelphia. I will tell you that they are in Orlando right now. You can go to iceout.org to report ICE sightings and to see reports of ICE sightings. They're talking about building a detention center here in our community.
In Orange County.
In Orlando, actually. Or not building one, but renting a space that could hold people that they're obtaining. Our as far as I know, our police departments in Florida, our highway patrol, and our prisons are cooperating with ICE. And so yeah. And then the third thing is we can do hard things. You are capable, you are competent, and believe it or not, you have been prepared for this moment your entire life, whether you know it or not. And so those are the three things I want to tell people about that. And then the other thing that I really want to talk about is hold on, I'm going to scroll down to my little notes that I have here. While I do that, let's just remind everyone, you're listening to Front Porch Radio on WPRK 91.5 FM. I'm Julie Wilder.
I'm Max.
And this is where we have conversations for the common good. And more of you need to be having more of these conversations, because it is only through denial and like dismissal, meaning like willfully looking away, that like fascist authoritarian regimes can be installed, right? But if there is an uprising and people say, oh, heck no, then there's a chance that we can save our democracy. And I don't even know if you've been looking at it, Max, but there's been an incredible uprising in Iran at the same time that this is going on. And the reports coming out of there now, Iran has been under an extreme authoritarian regime for decades and decades and decades. Mm-hmm. And they are finally rising up. And the reports are that like 50,000 people have easily been killed. They've just been machine gunning like crowds, which is absolutely horrific. And I think to myself, if we don't take a stand right now, then that would be our future, is, decades of authoritarian rule. And then when we try to break free, something like that would happen.
Right.
So it's very important that we pay attention to what is going on. But one of the things that I think is critical to note, and I follow this really cool lady. She's a former CIA, and she also survived a cult, and so she's written several books on cults and tactics and things like that. And so and not just her, but other people, that one of the things that everybody's been fearful of, including the Second Amendment rights, pro-gun folk, is that somehow there would be martial law installed in all of the land, right? And that is literally impossible. Like, even the full scale of our military government could not do that. And they can hardly do it in one city. Look at what's happening right now. Right. They're not able to do it, right? So that is something that people need to understand, that the power is on the people's side in terms of our own cities. But it requires us to be as brave and courageous as the people. They would much rather be reading a book, and going ice skating 1000%.
Right.
But that's not what they're doing. They're being really good neighbors and they're showing up. And then the other thing is that a majority of the military is BIPOC and sworn to protect and defend the Constitution and American citizens. And Trump would not need to build a personal military via ICE if he thought a majority of the military would do his bidding. So those are just some things I want people to know. And so, like, if you are, shaking in fear at, oh, well, I have to, whatever, if we're all being Minnesotans, if we're all acting like Minnesotans right now, I'm sorry, my phone's going off. Max is giving me the stink eye. Then, yeah. I mean, some of us will obviously get hurt, but better a few than a lot more once they take.
I'm still in shock.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Go on. Tell us more, Max.
I mean, I've given this rant multiple times.
You haven't done it on the radio.
That's true. Which one should I do? I mean, I would say many people who are supporting of Donald Trump have been preaching the Second Amendment right for years. And they have been excusing school shootings, mass shootings. They've been excusing shootings, and they've been saying some people must die in order for the average citizen to be allowed to carry a weapon legally. The Second Amendment right to carry a gun. And now, in the most hypocrisy, like absurdist, I don't even have words. Alex Pretti, right, the man who was shot on Saturday, they are saying it was in self-defense because he had a gun in his pocket and he was going to kill somebody. He did have a gun in his pocket. It is an open carry state.
He's legally allowed to carry it.
He's legally allowed. He never picked it up. He had both hands in the air. So it's insane.
They didn't even know he had one when they started messing with him.
And then they removed it from him before they tackled him.
Yeah.
He didn't even have...
Well, before they shot him, they removed it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, and what one of the things that I saw was that like a lot of the people on the right are like, wait a second, liberals have open carry? Like and they're like surprised that liberals own guns and open carry. And like that's the thing, is that, they've been so convinced that, everybody wants to take away their guns. A lot of liberals are fine with guns. They just don't want them pointed at their at kids in schools.
Right.
And so having sane measures for vetting, and in Japan, in order to get a gun, you got to go through some hurdles, man.
Right.
And so yeah, you have to go through more tests to get a driver's license than you do to own a lethal firearm.
And if you think that if these laws were put in place that you legally wouldn't be allowed to own a gun, maybe you shouldn't own a gun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And don't forget that hypocrisy is the point, because we're talking about a supremacist movement.
Right. And
in supremacist movements, what is good for me is good for me. And you can't do it.
Right.
That is what supremacy is about. And so you just mentioned that you're in shock, and I'm going to point to the Kubler-Ross change curve, right? And Kubler-Ross is most known for the stages of grief that people are probably more familiar with. And so there is kind of like a process that people go through, and it's really good to be able to identify where you're at. Right now, you said you were in shock, right? And that's one of the early stages is of understanding change, because we are in change. Like just at a conference, I don't know, 3 days ago, the Prime Minister of Canada stood up and was like, United States is no longer a world power. Like that is it.
Yeah.
Like we are done with you, and they all threatened to sell their U.S. Treasury bonds, which would basically destroy the American economy if he didn't back off his, stuff with Greenland, which thankfully it looks like he did. But shock is one of the stages. Denial is another stage. Disbelief, looking for evidence that it isn't true. Then there becomes frustration, recognition that our things are different, sometimes angry, right? And then there comes depression, low mood, lacking in energy. And all of those things are where is very seductive, because people don't like change. It creates, I think everything creates an identity crisis when change comes into place. And so like when you're having that, it's very seductive to want to listen to, for some people, not others, to be like, oh yes, well, he was actually doing something wrong and he deserved it. Which even if this guy had like 5 prior convictions, like he didn't deserve, that is not the American way. That is literally not the American way. But then when you get into the next stage of experimenting, which is initial engagement with a new situation, and then decision, learning how to work in the new situation, feeling more positive. And then the final stage is integration, changes integrated into a renewed individual. So what you see right now in Minneapolis, those people are by and large in this decision stage of learning how to work in their new situation. And it makes them, even though they're going through an extreme trauma as a collective, there is also this feeling of, like we're doing this. We're standing up for our neighbor. I mean, they are leading the way.
Right.
And I just can't say thank you enough to not only the people that are doing it right now, but all of the work that has been done on that ground for decades leading up to this, because we're not going to find out that story for a little while because we're all just focused on current events. But someday the story of how there came to be such an excellent activist group in there, and certainly Black Lives Matter was part of it, but I guarantee you it was happening before that too. And because I know the activist community here in Orlando, and I know that we have so many progressive politicians because of the activist community here in Orlando, and that makes me feel safer in Orlando, even though we're, we still got ICE out there doing their thing. Anyway, so you're in the shock stage.
I don't even remember where I was going with that.
I don't know either. I'm sorry. But you want to, one of the things that that I loved watching you in your process. I mean, I don't love any of this. I don't love that you're having to experience this, that you're staring down your college years and all of these different things with this on, it as the backdrop and central feature of what's going on in America. But you were like, what can we do? Where can we volunteer? All of those different kinds of things. And so, and then also taking, like using your spiritual tools, like, okay, let's light some candles and like set some intentions, those are all things that we can do for our own mental health to keep us, again, have your feelings, but don't sit there, because there's things that we need to do. And one of the organizations that you can connect with is the 501 here in Central Florida. There's a bunch of chapters across the land, but I'm going to pull out the Unitarian Church has like sessions where you can. I'm trying to find the flyer. I took a picture of it at the protest. Here it is. A progress hub. Where you can recharge and refresh. You can learn new skills such as organizing, de-escalation, labor unions, etc. There's a book swap. There's potlucks. There's all different kinds of things like that. And that is something that is being put on by the Orlando 5051. So 50501, and you find the Orlando chapter and you can get kind of tapped in that way. Other things that you can do, just having conversations like this is important. You can write your song, create your artwork about this event. Anything that you can do to raise awareness about what is going on, educate people about what is going on, learning how to regulate our nervous systems and our emotions so that we can be, strategic and productive about what is going on. And there's a few documents that I pulled. There's an author I follow. I'm going to put these up when I have a Substack. So when I post the podcast, I'll post these resources. But one of them is like how to prep your house for an emergency. I've done things like I have a 60-day supply of food for 2 people. I have 2 extra bags of dog food. I ordered mace and tasers and bleed stop and gas masks and
I sound like a prepper.
I do. But this is something I've been doing this for the last, year. Slowly over time.
She's not a prepper.
I'm not a prepper, but I saw what was coming and I was like, I'm going to be prepared,
Right.
So, because it's not, I don't even have to go to it, it very well may end up on your doorstep the way it is in Minneapolis. Right? So those are the things you could do is prepare your household. The second thing you can do, is, I found, the Black Panthers actually have, it's called the Four Winds Approach to Revolution, and I'll link to it. And it is several chapters, and it talks about sovereign mutual aid and community service is one chapter. Community health depot and free clinic system is another. Waste not, want not. Sovereign self-defense systems and neighborhood integration. Low-tech sovereignty and community fabrication systems, communications and code systems. There's a lot of different steps that have been basically written down and is available online. It's called the Four Winds Approach to Revolution because Black people have been telling us you need to listen to us, and I think it's time that we do. So that is one thing. It's got several chapters, and I recommend get a gaggle of friends together and each person take one chapter and report back, that way it can be rapidly done. Like, even if it doesn't end up on our doorstep, maybe Minneapolis has scared them all off and they're like, well, we're not going to do that anymore. Who knows? I mean, whatever, but it's good information to have because even if they are not in office anymore, the people who voted them in, this infrastructure, these organizations, they still exist and they still need to be addressed.
I mean, even if all of a sudden Trump is like, okay, I'm going to be normal now for the next 3 years. I mean, now we have been made aware that every politician in there is bought out, and it needs reform either way.
Well, reform or abolishment, right? Because, I mean, yes, this is the strongest test of our Constitution, of our system that the United States has ever seen. So it is going to be very interesting to see how it is navigated. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am optimistic that the people are going to prevail. Okay. And that's the place you have to live. Okay. You have to live and the people will prevail. And in that is, and part of that is making sure that people know what's going on so that people do prevail. Right. But there are systems like the police and Abolish and ICE that, I mean, ICE was created post 9/11. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's a relatively new organization. So is the Department of Homeland Security. Those were both created post 9/11 after the terrorist attack on the United States. Mm-hmm. And so there was different ways to handle these things beforehand. It's not like they weren't getting handled. They were just getting handled in different ways. And so what people in the United States need to realize, because everybody keeps talking about Nazis and Nazi Germany, and hey, that's somewhat of a fair comparison. But what they don't know is that the Nazis actually studied Jim Crow racism in the United States for their tactics. So this is actually, the call is coming in from inside the house. It has always been coming from inside the house. And these are the sons and daughters of Jim Crow, of slave owners. This is the sons and daughters of all of those, the bad people that exist in our historical documents. Right. Their descendants are still alive, and they're still causing problems.
Right.
And recruiting other people to cause problems.
Yeah.
And so it's important to recognize that the abolition movement is something I would really encourage other people to look into, because that is how we get free. That's how we get free. That's just my line. What, you're looking at me like I've gone crazy. But one day you'll look back at this interview or this conversation and be like, she was right the whole time. She's being polite right now because she's a teenager.
I'm not looking at you like you're going crazy. I'm looking outward like I'm going crazy.
Right. And that's normal, you know. That's totally normal. It's totally normal. It's you know, I'm like, you know, I just ordered a bunch of product for the bookstore after the holidays, and then I'm like, I should cancel a bunch of these orders. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, mass strikes and all those different kinds of things are probably on the table and need to happen. Yep. But this is interesting times. But I also want to remind you, I have another Substack from several months ago, the Front Porch Radio Substack. And I was talking about some of the really, really great uprisings that we've had recently. And one of them, like the youth totally took over. I hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Are you talking about Discord again?
Yes, I'm telling you, they had a vote on Discord. It was crazy what they did. Let me see if I can find it for you. And we still, by the way, have the monks doing their walk for peace. You know, that is also.
Are they still walking?
Yeah, they're still walking as we speak right now. They're walking for peace all the way to the White House. They're going from state capitol to state capitol. I did a whole show on it last week. Okay, here it is. It's called, there's an episode on, if you go to Substack, you can find Front Porch Radio. That's where I post all my podcasts. I turn them into podcasts after the live show. And there's an episode, September from last year, Global Turmoil and Triumphs, a New Era of Political Engagement. And I talk about the turmoil in Nepal, which was the Gen Z uprising. That's where it was, Nepal. Then there was Brazil's political turmoil, and there was just a lot going on. And so there's just a lot of inspiration all around us. It's just very, the global rise of authoritarianism it's always going to lead to revolutionary times. And man, I do wish for all of us more boring times. But
boring would be amazing,
wouldn't it?
If I could have a day where I scroll on Instagram and nothing excites me.
Yeah. You know, that happened sometimes in the 80s.
In the 80s?
Yeah.
You were scrolling Instagram?
No, we weren't scrolling Instagram. You know what we were doing? We were making sticker books out of paper that we stapled together.
We found in my mother's box of memories a sticker book, and I am in shock that you bought stickers to not put them on things, but just on a piece of paper.
Yeah, that I stapled together. I made my own book that I stapled together.
There's chapters.
Yeah, I wrote a table of contents.
Yeah.
I was way ahead of my time.
We also found a letter of only read in... What was it?
Oh, in the event of my death.
In the event of my death.
What was I doing?
I don't know. And it was like...
Freaking high school.
It was like, my golden bracelet will go to my great-grandmother. And like nothing else. Nothing. It was just like what your teenage items will be allotted to.
Well, but also I was like, and I don't know if I want to be buried or if I want to be ashes. But I was like, it'd make it dangerous and fun the way to be.
You said if I am cremated, do not let me sit on a shelf. I want my ashes to be thrown from an airplane while free falling is played. This was, what, 1992? Or...
Oh my God, it was a different time. And now I've decided I was really struggling in this thing between, like, what do I be I don't know if you're buried, you're like,
You're in a box.
you know, and I was really struggling with how I wanted to be, my remains to be treated. And,
Yeah.
you know, hilariously, I've decided I want to be in one of those
I will make sure that happens.
composting. No, I want to be composted.
You don't want to be
in a green burial.
free falling
Yeah.
over an airplane.
I mean, that's fun.
That's pretty
That's
fire.
pretty fun. Yeah. You know, maybe you can cut some of my hair off and
Ew, what's wrong?
it's so creepy.
Your dead hair? It's just...
And that is why we need humor, because that is what is going to see us through these times, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know that you guys seriously passed notes to each other. I thought that was a...
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought that was like
We found a treasure trove. I found my best friend's list of, like, the guys she's dated.
From 9th grade?
She was a senior.
Oh.
You know? And it was like this list of like 8 guys, you know, so that I could like catch up
With
to
like,
the lore.
yeah, with like little facts about them.
Yes. And I sent a picture of it to her. She goes, that is a top level artifact right there. Man, but I did have notes to self, like when I have kids, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
let them go to parties.
And I do, don't I?
You do let me go to parties.
I do.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
Yeah. It was brilliant. And so that's how we're going to do it. And so for other people, like one of the things, okay, if people are like, well, what do I do? Like, look, first of all, you're not limp-wristed. You can do things. Do you live near the do you live near one of the there's several little kind of military and police bases around. Just start watching. See if you notice patterns. See if you notice anything unusual. Put it up in your neighborhood forum. Hey, has anybody know what this truck is? I just saw that in one of the, you can join little forums that will tell you that. You know, you can certainly, you know, volunteer at the food pantry right now. That is always a good inroad, right? There's a center in Apopka that does a lot of great work for the farm workers. That is a great place to get involved.
Also, I mean, I guess maybe not everyone is a creative artsy weirdo, but for all of you creative artsy weirdos, create art. I mean, art and music have been a form of protest forever. I mean, I was just talking specifically about music with my co-host Nina on my radio show Girl Maxing. And I mean, folksy music, I mean, like, off the top of my head, Bob Dylan comes to mind. I don't know why. But, you know, they've been creating protest music for forever. And more recent things like the Super Bowl, Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance was absolutely political last year. And this year, Green Day's opening the Super Bowl and Bad Bunny's doing the halftime show, which I'm excited about. That's going to be something for sure.
Be lit.
I am extremely excited about that.
And also boycotting. You know,
boycotting.
We were talking today about, okay, how do we get out of Spotify? Which platform are we moving to?
I vote Apple Music.
I understand what your vote is. We'll figure it out. And so we are just going to do all kinds of things that are going to be in terms of like, how are we going to divest, which means stop putting money into the people that support these things, right?
Companies like Target.
Yes, there's lots of not great things going on out there, which mean, you know, there's different things that we have to do, and all of the actions together are overwhelming, but you just do one thing at a time, one step at a time. Find a friend to do it with, and teach your children well, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I have to say, I'm so grateful for you.
I'm also grateful for you.
I mean, what would I do if I didn't have you at a time like this?
Probably die.
I know. It would be terrible.
Horrific.
I know. I'd probably be a lot more radical. I like have to stay alive for your sake, because, you know, you're still under my roof and I got to make sure that's okay.
Yeah.
But also be joyous, you know, make sure that you make time for joy. Don't feel guilty for taking time for joy, but, you know, pay attention
Stay up to date.
Stay up to date.
Fact check.
Heather Cox Richardson is a perfect person to follow. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And keep tuning into WPRK 91.5 FM because they allowed excellent programming like us. And last week, Girl Maxine played the Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speech, which is not something you hear every day on the radio. And I'm sure that a lot of other DJs are adding their little spin to things here and there. So support your indie stuff. Get involved. Have a good attitude.
Create some art.
Create some art.
Paintings,
Create some music.
murals.
Have potlucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, and stay tuned. Next we have Gulf of Mexico. I did it. I did it right this time. I've been practicing in my head because I keep calling it the wrong name. He's going to come up next and play great music for you, I'm sure. And if you liked what you heard, we're here every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. Well, I am. Max sometimes joins me when she's feeling spicy. And you can find more episodes on Substack. Just look for Front Porch Radio. And I've got some really good ones in there, honestly. I'm not going to lie.
You have to, yeah.
I know. Well, you could come help me. Okay, make Max. I'm here, okay? Let's go. All right, we're going.